Sometime later, he woke up startled, hearing a loud knock on the front door. He got up confused when the knocking soon turned to a banging sound. The rain was so heavy outside, it was so late at night, who could it be? Aiden hurried out to the hall when suddenly his heart began to race when he heard a muffled voice from outside. "Open the door! Aiden! Open the door, please!" Aiden was thundered to hear Catherine's voice. He ran to open the door to see her crying out in the rain. "Catherine, is that really you?" Catherine cried uncontrollably. She started to cough. She held her throat, her chest, as if she were suffocating. "Aiden, help me. I can't breathe. Let me in." "Come in, the door is open." "I can't, Aiden. Please help me." Aiden was frightened seeing Catherine's state. It was as if she were banging on an invisible barrier between them. She wasn't able to come inside. Aiden put out his hand to grab hers, when suddenly he heard a loud roar of thunder. Aiden woke up, all alone, anxious, his heart throbbing in his chest, sweat trickling down his face. Was that all a dream? No, it couldn't be just a dream. It must have some meaning. Was Catherine calling out to him? Aiden had an eerie feeling something wasn't right. His instincts told him Catherine wasn't dead. She was alive. She needed his help. Aiden and Catherine Doyle have been happily married for a couple of years now. Together, they bought a small home and settled in Leeds, England, where they were progressing in their lives. Everything about their relationship was picture perfect, except for one thing. Catherine's family wasn't happy with their marriage. It was about 4 years ago when Aiden moved to Leeds from home in Southern Ireland to pursue higher studies. When he began attending the BII Academy, he was introduced to Catherine. Though both Aiden and Catherine had different majors, they had 2 classes in common: English and statistics. It was almost at first sight that Aiden had become attracted to her. She was beautiful and smart. "Hello, I'm Aiden." "Yes, I've heard of you." Aiden had noticed Catherine always tried to keep her distance from him. She was friendly towards others, but when it came to Aiden, she was rather impolite. Aiden didn't understand why she was like that towards him. He had never done anything to offend or upset her. It wasn't until the day of their exam that things turned around. Catherine and Aiden had been sitting a seat apart from each other. It was in the middle of the exam that Aiden noticed Catherine a bit nervous. She kept shaking her scientific calculator, trying to make it work, but it wasn't working. Aiden simply slid his calculator down the table towards her. "I'm finished. Keep it with you. You can return it to me later." That day, Catherine had felt a little ashamed for the way she had treated him before. Aiden had always been nice to her. She thought she would fail the exam. No one was going to lend her their calculator at that time. But Aiden trusted his to her, whereas when he tried to befriend her, she always made him feel like a stranger. "Aiden, thanks for your calculator." "No problem. Would you mind if I sit with you?" And everything started from there, from friendship to love. But it was after they started dating that Aiden realized why Catherine might have struggled to befriend him. Her family didn't like him, and the only reason was because he was from Southern Ireland. A year into their relationship, when they got married, even though they didn't cut off relations with her, none but a distant uncle of hers had arrived to their wedding. Nonetheless, they got married and they had been together for 3 years now. It was a typical evening in the Doyle household. Aiden was relaxing on the couch when his wife sat down beside him, looking through their mail. "What's this? An invitation to Rose's wedding?" "They invited us. This is great, Aiden. You have to take off on next Friday. It's my cousin's marriage. We have to go." Aiden furrowed his brows looking at the card. "No way. I'm not going through that again." "What do you mean?" "Have you conveniently forgotten what has happened so far? Your family can't stand me. None of them came to our wedding. They didn't even wish us after our marriage, but we still sent them all gifts, but some of them even returned it back. And if that wasn't insulting enough, what happened the day of your sister's baby's sacrament? How did your mother behave?" "Catherine, why did you bring him here? You know he belongs to a different church." "But Mom, he's my husband." That day at the church, all of Catherine's relatives had been murmuring to each other, passing Aiden looks. Not a single person had called him to sit with them. And later, they pulled Catherine away to join the child's sacrament, while Aiden sat there all alone. Catherine sighed. "Aiden, that was something else, and this is my cousin's marriage. We grew up together. We've always been close. I have to go." "I've already decided, Catherine, we're not going." "No, we are going." "So you're going to go without me. How will your relatives react when they see you went without your husband?" "I'll just say you couldn't make the time." "And what if I forbid you to go?" Catherine chuckled. "And what will you do, husband? You're going to tie me down and lock the door? Or you're going to take me with you to your office?" Aiden was furious. How could she be so stubborn? In a rage, he left Catherine be. If his words had no meaning to her, then he didn't find a reason to talk to her. The next 2 days went by in which Aiden hadn't spoken a word to Catherine. "Sweetheart, I know you can hear me. I left your breakfast on the table. It's getting cold." "Sweetheart, I ironed your shirt. It's on the bed." Catherine had tried everything to get him to reply to her, but Aiden was firm. Come the day of the wedding, Aiden thought she would change her mind, but that morning, she got ready and came to him. "Aiden, I'm going to the wedding. I'll try to be back by 10. I kept dinner in the fridge. Please don't go to bed without eating. And don't just eat it like that. Heat it up first." Aiden silently left, trying to hold back the anger. Even at the office, he was so frustrated. The simplest things, organizing some papers or finding a pen, tipped him off. "What's wrong, man? Why are you upset?" "It's nothing. My wife is going to her cousin's wedding without me." "Oh, your in-law issues. They invited her without you?" "No, they invited me, but I don't want to go. You know what happened the last time I went." "You're upset because of this? Man, at least your wife gave you the choice to stay back. If it was my wife, I wouldn't have had the choice. When we were dating, she was so soft, polite, and nice, but after marriage, she's become my boss, as if I work for her. I have to do whatever she says." "No, man, how could she go without him? Even my wife is my boss, but his situation is different from us. His in-laws has problems with him. His wife should have took a side." Aiden sighed as he listened to his colleagues. They were right. How could she just leave him and go? Didn't she love him? How could she go over there and spend good time with them when they insulted him, humiliated him? It was like she didn't care about him at all. The more Aiden thought about what happened, the more enraged he became. After all this, Aiden wasn't going to let her win. This was about his respect. It was time he stand up for himself. Catherine had told him she would be home by 10, so Aiden intentionally returned home much later than that, at midnight. But when he entered the house, he was surprised to find it empty. She hadn't come home yet? All of a sudden, Aiden became a little concerned. Had something happened over there? Was someone going to drop her off? Was she coming home alone at this time of the night? Aiden started to regret allowing her to go on her own. Or was she not coming home at all tonight? He walked to the kitchen and opened up the fridge. He took out the box Catherine left for him. Wow, she made his favorite, lasagna. Well, why punish myself for her? So Aiden freshened up, heated up the food, and was enjoying his dinner when he received a call from an unknown number. He picked up to hear a familiar voice. It was Catherine's brother. Aiden, it's David. If your sister isn't going to come tonight, she should have called herself. Aiden, Catherine's in the hospital. It got so late, so I was coming to drop her off, but we got into a car accident. We're all at the hospital now. You need to come. As soon as Aiden heard what happened, he dropped the phone and ran out to his car. The drive to the hospital was nerve-wracking. What happened with her? Was she okay? Where is she? There, the doctor said she's in a coma. On request, Aiden was permitted to see his wife. But Catherine lay there motionless, unable to say a word to him. Catherine, can you hear me? Speak to me. Open your eyes or move your finger. Catherine. Aiden was devastated when a few hours later, doctors informed them Catherine was no more. The following evening, Aiden and Catherine's family arranged for a funeral. Everyone was so heavy-hearted to say a word, and so was Aiden. He stood by her grave as her coffin was lowered down, unable to hold back the tears. Heartbroken and shattered, Aiden returned to his now quiet home, feeling so incomplete. He went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. He was feeling hungry. But now, she wasn't here. There was no food. He opened the fridge, staring at the box of lasagna from the night before. It was the last of her cooking. If he ate this last meal, it would be the last time he'd taste her food. Sometime around midnight, the thunder began to rumble outside, and the rain soon started to pour heavily over the roof. Unable to eat in all the grief, Aiden sat down on his couch all alone, staring at her picture hung up on the wall. He was overcome by regret and guilt. Perhaps if he had gone, none of this would have happened the way it did. Perhaps if he wasn't so stubborn, he could have spoken his last words with her. He was exhausted, but the memories with Catherine haunted him. He was unable to sleep, constantly questioning the last moments he spent with her. Now in the pin-drop silent house, listening to the sound of the droplets on the roof, Aiden finally dozed off. But sometime later, he woke up startled, hearing a loud knock on the front door. He got up confused when the knocking soon turned to a banging sound. The rain was so heavy outside, it was so late at night, who could it be? Aiden hurried out to the hall when suddenly, his heart began to race when he heard a muffled voice from outside. "Open the door! Aiden! Open the door, please!" Aiden was thundered to hear Catherine's voice. He ran to open the door, to see her crying out in the rain. "Catherine, is that really you?" Catherine cried uncontrollably. She started to cough. She held her throat, her chest, as if she were suffocating. "Aiden, help me. I can't breathe. Let me in." "Come in, the door is open." "I can't, Aiden. Please help me." Aiden was frightened seeing Catherine's state. It was as if she were banging on an invisible barrier between them. She wasn't able to come inside. Aiden put out his hand to grab hers, when suddenly he heard a loud roar of thunder. Aiden woke up, all alone, anxious, his heart throbbing in his chest, sweat trickling down his face. Was that all a dream? No, it couldn't be just a dream. It must have some meaning. Was Catherine calling out to him? Aiden had an eerie feeling something wasn't right. His instincts told him Catherine wasn't dead. She was alive. She needed his help. Aiden wasted no time. In the pouring rain, he drove out to the funeral home. Mr. Doyle, you're here at this time? You have to exhume Catherine Doyle's grave. She's still alive. I'm sorry, Mr. Doyle, we can't do that. No, you have to dig the grave. I know she's alive. It was a wrong burial. She never died. Mr. Doyle, try to calm down. Losing a loved one can be difficult, but your wife, she's no more. When the sexton refused to listen to Aiden, he barged out into the cemetery, where he found a shovel from the worker's shed. As he walked to Catherine's grave, he could see the security coming after him. Sir, you can't do this. Sir, stop! As they neared him, Aiden turned around with the shovel and yelled at them, If you come anywhere near me, I will not hesitate to break every limb of yours. Seeing Aiden, the men knew they wouldn't be able to overpower him, so they ran back to call the police while Aiden began digging Catherine's grave. He gave all his might, not stopping a second till he uncovered the coffin, dropped his shovel, and opened the casket. The sexton arrived with a few more guards, all frozen shock upon what they saw. Aiden stooped down to his knees in front of his wife's body. Now lifeless and pale, her fingers bled out, her nails torn off from trying to call for help, trying to escape this confinement. The door of the casket was covered in scratches, and a letter scratched out to none other than Aiden. Aiden, I don't know if you'll ever come to know what happened to me, or if you'll ever read this note, but if that day ever comes, I want you to know I really loved you with all my heart and soul. Don't misunderstand me. I knew my family never accepted you, but believe me, deep down inside, it hurt me too. My family had always been loving to me. They raised me with care and affection. They aren't bad people. I always wanted them to see the goodness I saw in you and overcome whatever hatred they had for you. I wanted you to receive the love and compassion I received from my family. I wanted us all to get along and be together. But perhaps it was never meant to be. But no matter how anyone feels about you, I've always loved you, and I'll always love you. Aiden read the letter, his eyes teared up. He allowed his anger to overcome him. Catherine had always understood him, but it was him who didn't consider what she felt. If there was anyone who truly loved him, it was Catherine. He stayed there in the rain, crying profusely. Suddenly, he noticed Catherine's dress move. He looked at her, her eyes flinching to the droplets of rain that soaked her face. She's alive! She's alive! Call an ambulance! Catherine woke up in the hospital, her fingers all bandaged. She turned to see Aiden sitting beside her. You finally woke up. What took you so long? I'm never going to leave you alone again.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.